This episode of Earn Your Happy is sponsored in part by Shopify, Constant Contact, Cozy Earth, Airbnb, and OpenPhone. If you're ready to sell, you're ready for Shopify. Sign up for your $1 per month trial and start selling today at shopify.com/happy. Constant Contact's award-winning marketing platform is here to make marketing way easier and way more effective. Try Constant Contact free for 30 days at constantcontact.com. Where would you live for a year if you hosted your home on Airbnb and went on an adventure? Find a co-host at airbnb.com/host. Sleep cooler, lounge lighter, stay cozy. Go to cozyearth.com and use code EARN for 40% off. OpenPhone. No missed calls, no missed customers. OpenPhone is offering my listeners 20% off of your first 6 months at openphone.com/earn.
There are a lot of people who do not have anyone in their life, maybe until they read a book or they come to me or they see a YouTube video of anyone talking to them about a healthy relationship with money and a healthy relationship with being organized financially. I kind of use the astrology and the spiritual work as a little bit of a Trojan horse because I just want you to get these tools in such a deep way, but I want you to see that you can provide value. And when you can generate value and do it creatively and do it uniquely as you will always be taken care of.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Earn Your Happy podcast. I have a super fun podcast for you today. Whether you believe in astrology or not, I think it can bring some self-awareness and it can maybe help you have some insights about yourself and why the way you function the way you do, and maybe even why your family does. So today I'm joined by Natalia Benson, who is an astrologer and money mentor. And about 10 years ago now, I got into astrology. I'm not super deep into it, but I just love learning about my own sign because it makes me feel so seen, because truly I am a textbook Sagittarius. And like I said, it also really helped me understand the people around me and closest to me, especially friends and family. So like a lot of astrology-based tools that help you learn more about yourself, just like human design, Natalia uses the power of your astrology to help you understand your money strengths and your blocks and how you're designed to create value and attract wealth. We also talk a lot about how she's really navigated some recent transitions in her life, from divorce to losing her dad, which led her to discover some powerful things about herself. And this whole conversation is about supporting yourself to heal, manage money with confidence, and navigate life's biggest transitions. You're also going to hear me mention in this episode about how I found there's a few astrological signs in particular that I find that I attract and gel with the most. So I'm super interested to see if there's certain signs that you are also attracted to and gel with the most. So keep me posted in the DMs. And you guys, let's get into the episode. Natalia, welcome to the Earn Your Happy podcast.
Oh my God, this is a dream.
This is a dream.
Thank you for having me,
This is a dream
babe.
for me. No, it's so much fun. How fun is it that we get to sit down with girlfriends who are doing epic things? I just got to be on your podcast, which was so much fun.
Oh my God, such an unreal conversation. I almost had to like pinch myself. And like I told you, I was getting cold and I was like, oh my God, this is happening right now. This is incredible.
But like, what a cool life that we've created this in our realities, that we get to sit down and podcast and ask questions. And, you know, I know, with the podcast, like it can feel so selfish because I know I'm excited to chat with you all about finances and astrology. And I love astrology. I just never remember most of it, but I'm obsessed with it. I actually am always so interested, like in different people's astrology signs, all the things. Like one of the first questions I actually ask people is what their sign is. Yeah. Is that crazy?
Do you know how to land it? Like if they're like, oh, I'm a Scorpio or I'm an Aries, or
what does land it mean?
Like, or do you land it with yourself to be like, okay, yeah, they're like this?
For the most part, I know. Well, here's the thing is I like
stick the landing.
I find that I'm really like, I find like 3 signs that I seem to always like run in. And then I get outliers, which are actually, even when I get those, like I end up finding the why. So yeah, really? I land it 30% of the time. I'd
great.
Like to land it more. I'd like to stick the landing more frequently. But like I always find I run in like Tauruses all the time, Sages, Leos. Scorpios.
Taurus is interesting. I think from if I remember from your chart, I'm almost, what do you have in Taurus? I remember you have Chiron in your seventh house. You have Chiron in Taurus. There's something else going on in Taurus for you that's powerful.
Interesting. I get a
Yeah,
lot of Tauruses.
that's really
Yes. And then
fascinating.
definitely Scorpio too.
Okay, it's interesting because so just to geek for a second, like you're a mutable sign as a Sagittarius, and so you're very like flexible, malleable. You know how to be with lots of different people. But the interesting thing about Taurians and Scorpios is that they're fixed energy, so they're very solid. They're very constant. So it's
That
very
makes sense
interesting.
to me
Yeah,
though.
it's fascinating. It's
Because
like a
I
very
crave that
unique.
sometimes.
Yeah, and we will do that where we'll like call in sort of the energy that we need, like a counterbalance too. So that's interesting. We could analyze that for a while.
I know I could really go there for a while, but this is what's so fun about this conversation with you is so much of what you do is rooted in astrology and your background with it and just your knowledge of it. It's almost like it must be challenging sometimes to even answer something without taking that as a reference point.
Totally.
What do you do when people like ask you different questions and they're not aware of your astrology background? Do you bring it in right away or do you just
Oh my God. You mean like if they're just asking me like a random in the world or something?
Yes, but like everything you do is kind of rooted back to it and you
Oh,
understand people so
everything.
well that how does Natalia be normal out in the world?
I'm not normal ever. I'll be like on a plane, like, sitting in my little biz class seat, and like someone will be like, "What are you doing here?" And I'll be like, "So I'm an astrologer, but I help women with personal finance." And they're like, I've actually made really great friends before who've actually come and like spoken my membership. Just they're like, "What do you do exactly?" And what's with all your tattoos and like the vibe? But no, I'm not normal anywhere. But I also know how to ground it. And I don't know why I keep saying land it, but it's like land astrology in a way where it's not so pie in the sky or it doesn't feel so like off kilter for people. It really, even if they're not into it, I feel like the way that I approach it, which is truly from a place of curiosity, of like understanding them. And it's fun. Like I'm genuinely curious about people. I am endlessly curious about people. And I just think astrology is such a beautiful, fascinating tool because people are generally into themselves and they want to know about themselves. And even if someone isn't into astrology, I think there's always something that I can bring just because I've just been studying it for such a long time and I'm quite intuitive with how to communicate with people. So even if maybe they're not necessarily naturally gravitating or it's not something they've ever been interested in, I feel like I can have a conversation or I'll pull up their natal chart. I have done this more times than I can count, where they're just like, wow, that is interesting. Or the fact that you could know that about me or ask me that question is like really powerful. So yeah, I love it so much. But yeah, I'm never normal, like literally anywhere.
And
Like
I
I want to
love
have deep
that.
chats. And it
Yeah.
usually starts with astrology.
Okay, so astrology and then you also are a medium.
Yes.
When did you get into astrology and how did you even start to understand that you were a medium?
Yeah, that's a great story and it's kind of wild. The mediumship is very, very new. But very, very simply, when I was in my early 20s, I was just lost. I was partying. I'd moved to LA. I moved there thinking I was going to grow the jewelry line that I started when I was in college. And instead, I remember I started dating this Pisces guy. And he literally was like, "Do you want to come to a meditation with me with a Japanese sensei in downtown LA?" And I was like, what?
Only in downtown LA, people.
Literally.
Only in
I
downtown.
also was like, wait, so I'm 21 years old, just painting the picture. I'm 21 years old. I'm sitting meditating. I'd never meditated in my life,
This is
really.
not what I was doing at 21. Okay, continue.
Yeah, me neither. Oh my God. That was not the bulk of this whatsoever. I was partying so hard, but I just remember sitting and being in the presence of this person who is, looking back now, I can see they were just so unbelievably practiced with themselves and with meditation. And I just remember having this thought where I was like, what am I doing here? But this feels really right to me. And I'd had a little glimmer of what I always put in air quotes of like having a spiritual awakening when I was 19. People always ask if like my parents were super woo or if I was always like this. No, not at all. It didn't really hit for me till I was 19 years
And where were you
old.
from again?
I'm from Arizona.
Okay.
Yeah, I moved to San Diego for school. And I just remember having this moment where I was like, I don't think I believe in this traditional idea of what I'd been taught God or divinity was. I wanted to find my own relationship, but I had no idea what that was going to look like or what that could be. And what was really interesting is a couple weeks later, again, wow, okay, I've been taught by a lot of people I've dated, which is interesting. But I remember I started dating this guy and he gave me a book called Conversations with God by Neil Donald Walsh. And I remember reading the back cover of it, I just started to weep. I was in a rental car, ironically, because I had gotten in a car accident. Another 19-year-old chaos. I was very chaotic when I was young, very all over the place.
I'm relating.
Yeah, it's our fire sign energy. But I just remember like reading the back cover of that book about how just the universe and God is communicating all the time. And it's a very personal, natural relationship. And there was something about that that really spoke to me, but I wasn't ready on any level to like take that in and make that real in my life. But after I moved to LA and I went so deep in the partying route, I mean, I went deep for like a year and a half and I was just really, really derailing myself, derailing my health and my vitality. And I remember just having this day where I had slept for like 2 hours and I had partied with my friends and I was like, I looked myself in the mirror and I was like, you're going to like ruin your life. So it's time.
And you just knew.
I just knew. And I knew that I had the wherewithal to stop immediately. And so that's what I did. But the reason I preface all of this is because then my life took a really, really interesting turn. I thought I was going to go to New York and keep working on my jewelry and blah, blah, blah. And I was planning on just partying there and doing whatever. But instead, I got an invitation to do a yoga teacher training. And so for someone who's been like drinking obscenely and partying and doing drugs, all of a sudden I cold turkey stop and I'm just going to go and start to train to be a yoga teacher. Okay, sounds intense, but I was like, sign me up. I ran into the teacher at random at a grocery store in LA and she was like, "Why are you going to New York? Like what are your goals? What's your vision for your life?" And I looked at her point blank in the face. I was like, "I have no idea." And she's like, "I think you're meant to do this. And I think there's a reason you ran into me today." And so I ended up, it was the biggest investment I'd ever made in myself in my life. It was $1,000. And that like 7-day training transformed my relationship to myself and really brought me home to my soul and brought me home to the deeper parts of myself that I was searching with the partying and with all the wildness. I was looking for this part of me that had always been there, but I just didn't know how to connect to. That's what led me to astrology. Again, I was dating some guy, he broke up with me, and I was at the Five and Dime in downtown LA. My spiritual awakening occurred in downtown LA, shout out. But it was really interesting because I just remember her sitting across from me and being like, "Okay, you're so disappointed about this guy. Have you ever studied astrology or heard about astrology?" And that was the start. So I already had this sort of connection with my spirituality. And then when I started to learn astrology and then later tarot as well, I just started to deepen in my understanding of what felt like universal intelligence and what felt like my own ability to be guided, and trust myself and trust that there's always something bigger at play in my life. And astrology for me, being an Aries, I'm naturally self-referencing. Some people would call this selfish, and that's sort of a shadow aspect of Aries. But one of the power expressions of an Aries person is that we're here to be self-referencing and to embody leadership and warriorship, actually. But we have to be very independent and independently sourced. And so when I started studying my astrology and I got my first reading when I was like, again, like 21 years old, that was honestly such a profound thing for me, because when that astrologer was communicating like my psychology back to me, and I was very young and somewhat aware, but not crazily. But when there were things he was telling me about myself where I was like, my body was having like a visceral response, because I was like, how could anyone know that about me? These are things that I've admitted to myself in quiet moments that no one knows. They're not even things that are actualized in me yet. But I was very changed by that. And then after I had that reading, I just continued on with studying. And so I kind of became known for that. When I was living in Los Angeles, I would just do, especially when I started, I did free sessions for people. And I just really wanted to hone the skill of being able to read someone's chart, and then eventually that became, a business, which I never anticipated that I would have a business rooted in astrology. That was definitely not part of my plan. I had done electronic music, I had a corporate job. I started my own little mini social media agency. I had the jewelry line, but all the while I was always studying, and I was always reading people's charts for them and doing the tarot and all of these things that were just giving me and other people so much more self awareness, and even space, even a really unique space of profound guidance. And the mediumship clocked in kind of the same. It's way too long of a story to get into, but basically, I hit a huge, huge wall. I was doing a lot of business mentoring for like spiritual women who were just wanting to stabilize their business, move out of one-to-ones. And I have a Capricorn ascendant in my chart. So I love business. I love entrepreneurship. I love systems. I love structure. That's been just something that comes a bit natural for me. However, I reached this place a couple of years ago where I was like, I am so freaking burnt out. And similar to the story you told me, Lori, where it's like, I'm so unfulfilled by this. And if I have to keep doing this, I just don't know what I'm going to do. And I had a really interesting moment where I actually had a client just cold turkey. She's like, I'm closing down my business and I don't need to work with you anymore. And for someone whose deepest fear is instability, and I was moving into the summer. I just was like, what am I doing? And I remember just sitting at my desk. I had my office in Laguna Beach at the time. And I just remember sitting at my desk and just putting my head in my hands. And I just kept saying over and over, I'm so lost. Like, I'm doing what I think I should be doing to create safety. And I'm running this business and doing the things that I think I should be doing. And I'm really unhappy and I'm really tired. And I started yelling, very dramatic. We're both have the drama piece. Like, you two, you drop to your knees. I cry a lot. And I just was like shouting, and I didn't even know who I was talking to. I was like, tell me what to do. Tell me what to do. I don't know what to do. And I'm just burning into the ground right now. I'm just too exhausted and I don't want to do this anymore. It's not lighting me up. And I remember hearing this very faint voice in my head say, oh, we'll tell you what to do. And that little moment, the next morning, I actually got an email. Have you ever heard of Ainsley McLeod?
Yes.
He's a past life psychic. Yeah, he's been on Oprah, on Ellen
Yes, he was on
DeGeneres.
Oprah. Yep.
Yes, I was on his wait list for 3 years.
Okay.
And I remember when I heard that little quip in my mind, I was like, okay, what's that? And I remember thinking, okay, I'm going to be guided. I don't know by what, I don't know by who, but something is going to show up for me. Because I think in those tough moments, and we were just talking about this, I'm going to reference our podcast a lot right now, but it's like, I feel like when I have hard moments, I forget that like I have guidance around me. I forget that there's something higher. It's so easy to forget.
Totally.
When you're in really deep struggle or really deep fear. But I had a feeling in that moment, I was like, something is gonna show up for me. I just don't know what it is right now. And the next morning I got an email from Ainsley McLeod's assistant saying, Ainsley can see you on Monday. And meanwhile, to almost the month, I had been on his wait list since 2020. So it had been 3 years.
Oh my God.
So I got that email and I was like, okay, maybe this is a piece of the guidance. And long story very short, it was one of the most intensely profound sessions. I kept saying it again out loud, didn't know who I was talking to, but I was like, God, universe, whoever's listening, I was like, you need to show me beyond a shadow of a doubt, because I know my mind is going to try to talk me out of this. Even though I'm very woo, I'm very esoteric, I have such a strong left brain. And I was like, please, please, please give me something in this reading with Ainsley that I can't deny. Show me how real all of this is. I need proof, and I need to know I can trust something beyond my own damn mind. I just need proof right now. And so, long story short, Ainsley walked me through, being a past life psychic. He walked me through something that I had already seen in a completely separate session 2 years before, only he gave me details and confirmations, things about my early life that he had no wherewithal about.
Yeah.
And there was just something about that experience that absolutely broke me open and reminded me that there's so much more. And so I suppose for someone who maybe is more, has a religion or has like sort of a different belief system. For me, I just didn't have anything that I could turn to necessarily where I was like, there's more. And I don't know what it is, but this really opened the conversation for me to not be afraid, to know that I'm guided and to know that there's more than just this life. And I actually ended up in the hospital. That's another whole story. This session was so intense. And I feel like it was also helping me let go of really deep body hatred that I had, really deep body dysmorphia that I had. That was a really big thing that came up in that past life that he spoke to me about. And I had a voice in my mind, again, that same voice, say, you're going to have a physical, visceral detox. And I, again, it's easy to ignore that voice when you hear it because it's so subtle. And yeah, within a week, I had gotten this IV and they pushed the glutathione too fast. I'd also gotten like some sort of facial that day that was like draining my lymph. And long story short, I didn't know this at the time because I just thought I was freaking dying. I got so sick. They had to peel me out of my bed. I was married at the time and my husband wasn't in Laguna with me. And they were peeling me out of my bed at like 6 a.m. and 8 EKGs on my heart. I mean, I couldn't open my eyes. I could barely get to the door to open the door for the paramedics. Like I had such a massive detox response to like what I'd done. But the interesting side of this is that within a week, I was a completely different person. And I had to face that really wounded masculine part of me that had kept me so in one state of mind, thinking this is how you create safety, this is how you create success, this is how you create stability. And by the way, it's all on you. All of that needed to like break apart and dissipate. And that reading was a big part of that for me because I just didn't realize I didn't have faith in really anything, let alone myself, or let alone that I have anything guiding or supporting me. I just didn't really look at life that way before this experience. And I actually got really sick after I went to the hospital and I had to be in bed. And I hadn't let myself get sick in years because I was so concentrated on like everything is on me. I have to take care of everything in my life. And that's even how it felt in my relationship. I just felt like everything was on me. And that was the story. Well, getting sick never fit into that category of being able to receive and being able to be quiet and be still. So I was kind of forced to. I started nonstop watching Tyler Henry. Have you ever watched anything? He's the Hollywood medium.
Okay.
I love him so much. And as I was watching all this Tyler Henry, it was lighting me up in a way that I hadn't felt in a really, really long time. And then I heard that subtle voice again be like, mediumship, get a book on it. And I was like, okay, well, I have a Sagittarius moon. I love to read. I love to study. And so I actually ordered a book called Magical Mediumship. And I have like what I like to term a bit of self-diagnosed ADHD. If I'm not interested in something, good luck for me focusing on it. Like I will literally do 30,000 other things.
I feel you.
Right. And literally with this, it's like I just I voraciously read this
Mm-hmm.
book. And then I, not long after, was at I DJ'd an event for one of my best friend's gala, and we had a huge dinner afterwards at the Cara Hotel. And my videographer, Madeline, she's like, I heard you're like studying to become a medium. And I was like, yeah. I go, give me like 5 years and I'll start practicing. She goes, practice on me right now. And I go, Madeline, I just started reading this book and like I've been watching these videos. I was like, but I don't know if I could bring anyone through for you. She's like, why don't you just try? So we're in the middle of this busy restaurant. It's like Saturday night. And I literally brought through her grandfather, Earl. I said, does your mom have a walk in closet? Like, what is that question? Don't even ask. I still can't even believe I asked it. And I go, does your mom have a walk in closet? She goes, I have no idea. I go, well, your grandpa's letting me know that this is where he connects with her. There's something special about this space. And she goes, okay, like, I'll ask my mom. So 3 weeks later, I get a text, and this is when I used to wake up and check my phone. I do my best not to do this as much anymore, but I wake up and I'm looking at my phone, I'm reading my text, and I look and I see this text from Madeline, and she goes, Natalia, she goes, my mom and my sister want to thank you for bringing through Earl. She goes, I went home to visit my mom, and she came out of her walk-in closet with a tray, and the only thing on it was a picture of my grandpa Earl. And she said that that's where she talks to him. So that really gave me like this moment. And I remember crying a little because I was like, oh, wow, maybe I can do this. Like maybe this is an ability and something that I can hone and I can express. And it's been a really beautiful part of my life. It's pretty wild because I don't like scary movies. I've always been very terrified of like anything that the other side, sort of represents, but I've just studied so much, and I've been doing practice readings for like the last year and a half almost, and it's just become sort of this new way that I'm just seeking to support people. I feel like loss and death are so scary, and they're not something that any of us really ever want to think about. And yet it's a universal experience. None of us get out of here alive. And so for me, like, it's just been this really unique, organic confluence of like my path to just start to understand this more and hone in this ability more and just support people, because it's very, very remarkably healing, especially when you have grief. And I didn't know actually when I was starting to study, and I kept hearing this again, this truth within me that was like, you're preparing for something. And then, I lost my dad. So I have to say, even though nothing prepares you for that loss, I also realized that the studying and the ways I was starting to show up for people with this, it really supported my grief process. And not to say, that it makes it easy, but it definitely has made it easier. So pretty interesting and very unexpected, like, part of my path, honestly.
Do you feel like anyone can be a medium, meaning like you study, or do you feel like you felt it and you think it's people who are called to it?
So my personal perspective is that anyone can do it. I believe it's an ability. We all have intuition and instinct. Some people are remarkably gifted psychically. Some people have a very natural ability to work with the other side and to be a conduit and to be a medium or to be a channel. But I don't really, other than being a very intuitive, sensitive, empathetic person, I never in a million years would have thought that this would be something that I would be able to do. So I actually just created something I call an audio experience, where I just talk through. It's almost like a cutie podcast vibe, but it's literally like I just walk people through how this woke up for me through my studies, but also just through practice. And I think that it's something that anyone can do if they want to apply themselves. It may be easier for others, but I just have the type of personality where I'm like, if something's important to you and I think you have to want to do it, and I think it has to have some sort of meaning or significance, you can figure it out. It's pretty powerful. And I think that we all have a connection to being able to communicate and to receive information, but how far out of your left brain can you get to accept that, maybe the hummingbird at your window is maybe a sign, and everyone sort of falls in different spaces with that. But I think if you see a sign or you have a unique experience or a metaphysical experience, if you're willing to allow yourself to believe that it could be something more, there could be significance, then why not? But it's also very much a practice of just training yourself to think differently and to be more involved in magic and receptivity, which our world it can be a little tough to do that, especially in our culture.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I've shared with you, and some of my background. I had a really religious background that was so against astrology, like my whole life growing up. Like my mom won't even, like she can't talk about tarot cards. She can't even talk about it. Like we can't look to the stars. I can't ask the sign, any of the things. It's all, bad. And the drill.
I've heard
demonic,
it all.
satanic, all the things. And for me, I probably started getting into astrology lightly. Maybe like 10, I think I moved to LA. So
Yeah, literally.
that's
Sounds like an
literally
LA
what
thing.
happened.
Yeah.
But what was crazy is some of the things being reflected back to me that people were telling me. I'm like, well, that's spot on. Like you can't describe, Sagittarius sign as like very different than other signs. So it's kind of like, I'm not falling under any other category. I am 100% relating to exactly what this is and
you
what
have a
people are
stellium
saying.
in Sagittarius.
What's
You're
that?
super Sagittarian. You have like 4 planets in Sagittarius.
I feel it like through and through. Like I don't know another way to operate or be like when I read it, I'm like, no, there's no straying. It's like right there.
Yes.
And it started to really help me just understand a lot about me and also about other people. In fact, it was one of the most powerful things, just learning signs. That's it, you guys. At first, for learning about some people in my family that I felt like I was butting heads with, not butting heads necessarily, but butting beliefs, like budding ways of being. Like I wanted everybody to be a certain way. I can get very like, why can't you just be this way? Or why can't I explain this to you and have you understand it? Like, why are some people not understanding this? Why are some people like bringing this attitude and energy to things? That really upset me. I wanted people to be very malleable and flexible, and it was very upsetting when they weren't. So what happened is I started to like just understand them more and how I was reacting to these people. And it actually like really changed my life with my family relationships, like the same people who wouldn't, maybe look at astrology.
Yes. You're like, this is supporting me,
I'm like,
supporting
this is
you
really,
right now.
Really, exactly. This is actually really helping whatever
Yes.
you're starting to enjoy in this relationship. What astrology also did to anyone who's just kind of like, I don't know, maybe some people are listening and they're slightly closed off. They're probably not if they listen to this podcast. Let's be real.
Just in case.
But just in case. So for me, it's such an awareness. You felt you weren't supported. You didn't know if you were supported by something, or you didn't necessarily have a belief in God. For me, it's all the same. Like it literally, I believe God created like astrology and the map and the stars and the universe and all of the things, because I don't think that he wants us to feel alone. And I believe that he created this universe to reflect back to us all of like the map, essentially. And if you think historically about, how we were in the past, like we looked to the stars for a lot of things. We looked to the stars for direction. We looked to the stars for answers. We looked to the stars for so many different things.
It used to be very integrated with government as well. It may still be actually,
so
but
interesting.
It's very interesting in that way.
And so I think, as you're talking about everything, I'm like, I do believe that we're meant to be able to actually tune into it. And I think you fast forward 10 years right now, I think there's not going to be too many weird beliefs around anything, because I think it's going to be like, we are all one and we're all connected, and God actually wants you to be able to see it, and science is proving it. So I think that's so interesting. And I love that your business is based in both, just because it's very much like, okay, well, we can learn about ourselves and how we are in business. So when you say astrology and finances, to me, that's like, oh, learn about yourself and about your timing and your life and like how you react in things along with your finances. So let's kind of talk about that, because you combine the two essentially. Tell me about, I know you have a membership. Tell me about how that all works and what got you into combining the two and why you're so passionate about it.
This was not on purpose, to be honest. And it's so funny because, I am living and expressing my astrological blueprint, but it wasn't until I allowed myself to be pulled by the things that I love. I don't know if that's a Rumi quote or to allow yourself to be silently pulled by the things that you love.
Mm.
It wasn't until I allowed myself to do that that my most fulfilling, empowered, successful expression of self came online. And what's interesting, well, and actually online too,
Yeah.
via Wi-Fi connection. But it's interesting because so my second house of money is Pisces, and Pisces is a very spiritual archetype. It's a very creative archetype. It's a very empathetic archetype. The second house is Taurus ruled. It's money, it's value, it's structure, it's strategy. So, how fascinating that the way that I generate both value for others and for myself is this unique confluence between this Piscean, spiritual, empathetic, sensitive, and soft approach to things that traditionally feel
Mm.
very, very left brain and very one sided. And that's really the beautiful feedback that I get from my work so much is really I'm here for the girlies and the women and the babes who like they know they want to have a stable, wealthy, beautiful life. They want to live life on their terms, but the banker at Wells Fargo or their partner or their family just doesn't know how to teach and guide money and a simple system to them in a way that feels safe and feels good and they don't feel, silly for not understanding it. And that's a big thing is, I grew up in a pretty like beautiful family on a lot of levels, but my dad was a CFO, chief financial officer. My mom worked in corporate. My grandpa on my mom's side was an entrepreneur and my grandma was a Taurus and she's very stable herself. My entire life, I had people talking to me about financially taking care of myself. And what I see in my work time and time again is that there are a lot of people who do not have anyone in their life, maybe until they read a book or they come to me or they see a YouTube video of anyone talking to them about a healthy relationship with money and a healthy relationship with being organized financially. And so I joke with my with my gals. I'm like, I kind of use the astrology and the spiritual work as a little bit of a Trojan horse because I just want you to get these tools in such a deep way, but I want you to see that you can provide value, you can make money uniquely as you can apply yourself to discipline and consistency uniquely as you. Everything's in the natal chart. Everything is in the natal chart. There's lots of different tools and systems, but for me, astrology is just my love, and it's a system that I'm just so remarkably respectful of, and it's done so much for me and my own growth and self-awareness. So bringing all of that together is it's just so fun. But my work within MWMM, within the membership specifically, is so funny because look, my second house of money, it has this spiritual bend to it. I also have Venus there. And one thing that I teach my girls is to understand their Venus placement, because when you understand your Venus placement, that's again where you generate value both for others and yourself. And when you can generate value and do it creatively and do it uniquely as you will always be taken care of. You will be able
Mm.
to generate abundance. And that placement is such a big one when we're learning about money. And what's even interesting in my own chart is I have a really there are aspects in astrology. So if you look at the aspects in your chart, they give you a lot of information of how the planets are communicating. So I have Venus in Pisces, and then it's squaring my Saturn in Sagittarius. That's a really, really hard aspect. I used to, and this is before I knew anything about this. I later studied it and was like, I'll be damned. That's freaking nuts. But I couldn't keep $50 in my bank account. I was just terrified of money. And it wasn't until I started to learn money management and pulled that alongside my deep, deep relationship to my spirit that I started to generate and really become stable and, in my own terms, successful. And I love to teach the ways that I've supported myself, both on that very right brain, emotional, healing the nervous system, getting to know your astrology, all that good stuff, paired with you gotta track your money. You gotta manage your money. You gotta know if you've got debt, you gotta know how to take care of it. So it's really pulling together those two totally unique expressions, which is very apparent in my chart. But that square to Saturn is very much Saturn represents responsibility. And it wasn't till I created structure and responsibility with money that I was given more and I was able to create and receive more and generate more. So this is just one unique example of just how astrology, and when we get to know the natal chart, it's pretty amazing like what it can reveal to us about ourselves. And so yeah, that's basically that unique kind of coming together of two very different things.
So if someone were to come in, you do their natal chart, which is you just need their birth time,
Yeah, they
birthplace.
do it. I teach them the beginning is 3 steps. So you choose the track and the membership based on a goal. So do you want to make more money? Do you want to heal debt? Do you want to up your manifesting or learn your astrology? Do you want to learn to manage money and invest in your future, or do you want to build a business? You can do as many tracks as you want, but I recommend starting with one. The second step is they learn the 6 financial tools. They're simple. They take about 10 minutes a day. You get them done in 6 days. And then the third step is I teach them how to decode their money blueprint.
Mm.
So one thing about me as an Aries is like I want to like hand you the tools and I want you to be your own reference. I'll give you the system and the simple structure to get it done, but I want you to really be like, I did this and I know how to reference from myself how to actually apply this to my life instead of me just telling you. Although, we do a lot of Q&As and everybody's got me telling them about their chart, and I'm happy to because obviously I've worked with the system for so long, so there's a lot of nuance that I can tap into with people that maybe they aren't seeing when they're just beginning and getting to know their chart. But yeah, that's essentially the kind of unique synergy of the membership is it's based on your goal, but in addition, you're also getting these really simple finance tools that you're going to keep in your habits and in your toolbox for, my, prayer and intention is that they're with you for the rest of your life and they evolve with you throughout your life. And then the astrology as well, like that, the amount of messages that I get, not only from women in the membership, but just women who have done my work or received a prosperity report from me, it's just remarkable because I think the self-awareness piece of like, oh my God, I can approach money in my own way. I can generate in my own way. Like you are such the embodiment of your chart, Lori. Like it's just so cool.
I'm like, what is my I'm
And
trying
I'm
to
thinking where
understand.
your Venus is. I,
Yeah.
I don't remember right now.
Okay.
It's wherever it is, it's a vibe. It's
I'm like wondering because when people come in, if I were to come in just thinking about like 10 years ago, they're able to see. So what the chart does from what I'm understanding is you're kind of
Yeah.
able to see like what your blocks are or like what
You
you should
can.
focus on
Yeah.
or okay.
Yeah.
So, a lot of you may have seen that my husband, Chris, and I run masterminds. And with that, we get to help scale entrepreneurs' businesses, but we also get to see the inside of their businesses and what they struggle with the most, from software to onboarding employees and creating a company culture. That's typically one of the biggest things. And Bamboo HR is a powerful yet flexible all-in-one HR solution for growing your business. Stop spending countless hours on payroll, time tracking, benefits, performance management. With Bamboo HR, those hours are shaved down to minutes so you can go and do what you do best. Bamboo HR also has robust hiring and onboarding tools that will streamline the process, thus creating much better first days and first impressions for those new hires. Plus, Bamboo HR prides itself on being super easy to use, easy to learn, easy to implement, and very easy to love. Take a couple minutes to check out the free demo and see how nimble and affordable this valuable tool can be. HR is hard, but Bamboo HR is easy. I can't recommend Bamboo HR enough. Check it out for yourself with a free demo at bamboohr.com/free demo. That's bamboohr.com/free demo. bamboohr.com/free demo. So I live in the cutest little walkable neighborhood. And recently the store Cozy Earth opened up. And I was so excited about it because, I just love being able to go on my walks every single day. You guys know I go twice a day. and being able to pass by and go in there because it has some of the best stuff. And one of the things that really got me was their bamboo sheets. You guys, they're temperature regulating, guaranteed to give you a comfortable night's sleep, made from viscose from bamboo. They're naturally wick away heat and moisture from your body, helping you sleep several degrees cooler. And you guys, Cozy Earth's mission is to transform your 5 to 9, the time that matters most, into the most comfortable part of your day. And let me tell you, they are absolutely helping me do that because sleeping in a cooler environment offers so many scientifically supported benefits that enhance sleep quality and overall health. Here are some key findings from recent studies and expert recommendations, which I sleep in a really ice cold room. You can ask my husband. I don't know if he loves it as much as I do, but deep sleep is so important to me. So enhanced sleep quality. Cooler temperatures facilitate the body's natural drop in core temperature at night, promoting the release of melatonin, a hormone that regulates sleep. And this leads to faster sleep onset and improved sleep quality. It also helps with mood regulation. Cooler sleeping conditions can boost serotonin levels, contributing to improved mood and reduced symptoms of depression. And there's a reduced risk of night sweats. So for individuals experiencing night sweats, such as those undergoing menopause, perimenopause, cooler room temperatures can alleviate symptoms and promote uninterrupted sleep. So you guys, you can help yourself out with some sheets. I am telling you, these things are life-changing because deep sleep has changed my life. And I just feel like I have a different personality when I've gotten enough sleep. I feel like I have all of the energy that I need to get through my day and do all of the things that I have to do as an entrepreneur. So you can do this risk-free purchasing. It's a 100-night sleep trial. So you can try them during the hottest nights of the year, which are coming up. If you're not in love, you can return them hassle-free, but trust me, you won't. It's a 10-year warranty on all bedding products. That's a decade of cool quality sleep. You can upgrade your summer. Go to CozyEarth.com and use code EARN for 40% off best-selling temperature regulating sheets, apparel, and more. So trust me, you'll feel the difference the very first night. Sleep cooler, lounge lighter, stay cozy. Go to CozyEarth.com and use code EARN for 40% off. As many of you know, Chris and I run entrepreneurial masterminds, which means we not only run our own businesses, which we have multiple of, and our personal brands, but we also get to be inside of hundreds of entrepreneurial businesses a year, if not thousands, with our online businesses as well. So with that, we totally understand that all of us are facing so many challenges, whether it's AI or inflation or political decisions. So many things feel out of your control. And that's why growing your business is the only way forward. It's so important to grow, especially your email list, you guys. And Constant Contact's award-winning marketing platform is here to make marketing way easier and way more effective for a small business like yours. The best part, you don't need to know anything about marketing. Your struggle with expensive, slow, and unmeasurable marketing is over. With their all-in-one platform, you can create and manage attention-grabbing campaigns in just a few clicks. Email, text, social media, events, landing pages, you name it, it's all in one place. No more juggling dozens of different tools. You also get automated sending, real-time reporting, and tools that actually help drive sales. So you're not just marketing your business, you're growing it. And if you ever get stuck, friendly phone support is included with every plan. That's why over 500,000 small businesses trust Constant Contact to stay connected, top of mind, and ahead of the competition. Constant Contact, helping the small stand tall. You guys, I'm so glad I found Constant Contact and can't wait to get started. Get a free 30-day trial when you go to ConstantContact.com. Try Constant Contact free for 30 days at ConstantContact.com, ConstantContact.com.
Essentially, what the natal chart is for. So, for anyone who doesn't know what a natal chart is essentially the moment that you're born.
Yep.
The moment you take your first breath, they clock the time. Whatever time's on your birth certificate is the time we use. And essentially what the natal chart is it's a snapshot of where the planets are the moment you're born. And what an astrologer does is it's almost like we're decoding the language of the planets, and we're singing this song into you that is the song of your soul. And it's the song that reminds you who you are, and not just your strengths, but also your challenges. And the little key, like I almost call it like the cheat code, is when you are embodying your planetary placements, your life just works. But what happens so often is we have programming, we have ideas and identities about ourselves that are not even ours. They're things perhaps that we picked up when we were young. If you're open to the idea of past lives, they can be things that are in the subconscious that the soul's bringing with to grow through and heal through. So the idea of looking at the natal chart is we're literally like looking at a placement, or looking at, like I said, the song of your soul. And we're looking at, if you embody these things, if you're willing to honor and hold these archetypes, which you oftentimes will naturally be doing. If there is one thing of most likely, I mean, I have never counted, but I would imagine it's in the thousands at this point, since I've been studying this and reading charts for about 16 years now. I have never had, unless their birth time was wrong and we corrected their birth time, I have never in my time doing this had anyone say that absolutely does not sound like me. People are always like, God, I've always known this about me, or like, thank you for giving me permission to be that part of myself, or remind me that that's important to me. And that's, I think, one of the gifts. And going back to what you said about your family, I look at astrology as a tool for compassion. I think that it gives us compassion and wherewithal for ourselves. And it also gives us the opportunity to grant that compassion for others, because not everyone functions the same way as we do. And especially when you understand people's aspects. I remember when I was studying astrology, I worked at a jewelry store on Sunday afternoons, and nobody ever came in. So I had so much time to study. And I just remember one time like looking at all my aspects and being like, God, gosh damn, these are freaking hard. Like, these are intense things. And I remember being like, wow, I can imagine in the world and people I interact with on a day-to-day basis, I can imagine their aspects. So again, it's just remembering, and this is not always easy for me. I tattooed the word compassion on my arm for a reason. It's the number one thing I forget regularly. I'm getting better as I get a little older, but it's just like, when we understand that we all have like a burden to bear, and it's the mountain that we're here to climb, not the mountain that we're here to hold on our shoulders. Astrology will also grant you that perspective, but the way that it will serve and support you is mostly it will remind you who you are and how powerful you are when you are completely yourself. And it gives you permission to be completely yourself.
What have you had moments recently that you can remember where you're just like, you felt so guided, or you had a moment of just like, oh, those are some incredibly unavoidable signs?
I mean, where do I begin? But, so this is a bit personal, but it's something I've been talking about. I'm going through a really big transition right now because I just left my marriage. And what's interesting is, so he and I both had Capricorn ascendants, meaning that we go through transits, like planetary transits at the same time. So I remember we had this really intense conversation back in December when Mars had just gone retrograde. And Mars is a bit of an intense energy. If you are familiar with the tarot, it's the tower. So it can be like the thing that rips through and makes massive changes both internally and externally so that you can be in your truth. But it's so hard. Like, I feel like some of your journey and like the intense things you've gone through in entrepreneurship have been like that tower archetype where you're like, I need to strip away these identities or be in these deep truths, even if I'm terrified to do it. So essentially back in December when Mars had just gone retrograde, then I was not paying attention at all. We first introduced this conversation with one another where it was like, I don't know if we're in the right relationship. And
How long had you guys been together?
We'd been together for 6 years, and we'd been married. It would have been 3 years in a couple weeks ago.
Okay.
So we were married for about 2.5. But what's interesting is I was, of course, like something big's going on. I'm like, oh, what's going on in the chart and what's going on like in terms of the planets right now. So I tend to not look forward and like apply things. I tend to look backwards. I live my life very experientially. And then I like to go back and see if there's true and total
Okay,
like
that's
proof in
awesome.
the
Yeah.
pudding. You know what I mean? I've just learned that that's, I
Mm,
think, the healthiest, most empowering way to
mm.
approach astrology. So I had that we had like it was one of the hardest days of my life when we had that conversation. And I looked and I go, oh my God. I go, he and I have Mars retrograding through our seventh house of marriage and seventh house of partnership. I was like, and it doesn't have to materialize in a divorce, but it can be a myriad of things because I'm sure there were plenty of other people with Capricorn risings who didn't get divorced during this Mars retrograde. But it was really interesting because it brought something forward. So fast forward, we decided to work on it and keep going. But then I remember having this thought where I was like, man, we're getting through this Mars retrograde in our seventh house of partnership. We're going to be okay. And then, yeah, 5 days after my dad's service, we sat down together and I was like, will you keep working on this with me? And he was like, no, I don't want to work on this anymore. And I think you don't want to either. And there was something about his acknowledgement, it makes me a little emotional, of like setting me free. And I wouldn't have done it myself, even though I was so unhappy. I just don't think, I just don't think that I realized, because especially going back to the astrology part of being an Aries, I'm seriously deeply loyal. But I think what I've had to recognize and even look at in this relationship is like I was so far away from what I truly wanted and so deep in what this person wanted and what I needed to do to maintain the relationship,
Mm.
and maintain the connection. But when he said that to me that day, I mean, I'm eternally grateful because I needed him to tell me that he was done, because I don't think that if he had, I don't think that I would have had, if I'm being completely honest with myself, I just don't think that I would have had the wherewithal to actually leave. Um, Wait, what was the question about transitions? I forgot.
Well, it makes me want to ask you next, like, what were you not living in the marriage that you knew your soul needed, but you weren't getting or having or living? When I first started Glossy, there were enough challenges that I didn't need to give myself more. And when you're starting off with something new, it just seems like your to-do list keeps on growing every day with new tasks, and often tasks that you have no idea how to do them. So finding the right tool that not only helps you out, but simplifies everything is a game changer. And for millions of businesses, including mine at Glossy, that tool is Shopify. Shopify is the commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world and 10% of all e-commerce in the US, from household names like Mattel and Gymshark to brands just getting started, just like mine. Getting started with your own design studio with hundreds of ready-to-use templates, Shopify helps you build a beautiful online store to match your brand style, which if you go look at mine, I'm telling you, I love it. Accelerate your content creation. Shopify is packed with helpful AI tools that write product descriptions, page headlines, and even enhance your product photography. So get the word out like you have a marketing team behind you. You can easily create email and social media campaigns wherever your customers are scrolling or strolling. And best yet, Shopify is your commerce expert with world-class expertise in everything from managing inventory to international shipping to processing returns and beyond. If you're ready to sell, you're ready for Shopify. Sign up for your $1 per month trial and start selling today at shopify.com/happy. Go to shopify.com/happy. Shopify.com/happy. When you have a business, there are so many challenging things that you don't need to add more challenge by getting confused with your clients texting you or calling you on your own phone number. Let me tell you, there's nothing worse than knowing that you missed a text or a voicemail from somebody important in your business. And that's why OpenPhone is the #1 business phone system that streamlines and scales your customer communications. It works through an app on your phone or computer, so no more carrying two phones phones or using a landline. With OpenPhone, your team can share one number and collaborate on customer calls and texts like a shared inbox. That way, any teammate can pick up right where the last person left off, keeping response times faster than ever. Plus, say goodbye to voicemail because their AI agent can be set up in minutes to handle calls after hours. They can even answer questions and capture leads so you never miss a customer. So whether you're a one-person operation, drowning in calls and texts, or have a large team that needs better collaboration tools, OpenPhone is a no-brainer. OpenPhone is offering my listeners 20% off of your first 6 months at openphone.com/earn. That's OPENPHONE.com/earn. And if you have existing numbers with another service, OpenPhone will port them over at no extra charge. OpenPhone, no missed calls, no missed customers. I'm still dreaming about this trip we took last year to Paris. You guys, for me, there is nothing better than sitting at a cafe, eating a chocolate croissant and sipping a latte, watching the beautiful, stylish people of Paris walk by. That is my literal heaven. So if you heard recently on our He Said, She Said episode, Chris and I asked each other if we could live anywhere for a year in the world besides where we live that we love so much, where would it be? And we both said Paris at the same time. And we've been there a few times, but last year we were hosting a mastermind trip in Italy and we're like, we have to make a pit stop in Paris because we're so obsessed with it. And thinking more about that dream of living in Paris for a year, I love this idea that if we did that, we could have another couple or family get to enjoy our space back at home. And they're having the exact same experience of trying out their dream location. That way we could make a little extra cash. Our home wouldn't be sitting empty. And with Airbnb's co-host network, an experienced co-host could take care of all the details while we're enjoying our dream of living in Paris. How incredible would that be? Where would you live for a year if you hosted your home on Airbnb and went on an adventure? I love that Airbnb is now making these dreams of living in different places possible. Find a co-host at airbnb.com/host.
And I don't want this to sound shallow to anyone, but to me, this is so important. We just had completely different versions of what life and our lifestyle wanted to look like and be. We were just on two completely different pages. And so what I found is I was kind of shrinking my vision. And I also recognized that he would never tell me his. He wouldn't tell me where we were going or what he wanted. And that, I feel like, for me as a woman, and even just like in my feminine energy, I just was like, I didn't feel like I had leadership in the relationship. And I just think there was also a deeper part of him, if I'm being really honest, where like, I think he loved me very much, but he knew deep down, like I wasn't for him. And I knew deep down that he wasn't for me. But when you have friendship and you have love for each other, it's kind of like, okay, let's figure this out. But we didn't share a vision, and I didn't know his vision. And so I think for me, that was a huge thing, was like, we were living separate lives. I mean, we lived in two different cities. He was in the desert and I lived out here in Orange County. So it was just like, it was starkly clear, but we just weren't, it took a minute to really admit. And I just think that when it really came down to it, I was just like, I just don't think that we see life the same way, or we want to see life the same way. And I'm a very different person than who I was when I was 31. I've changed a lot, and I need you to like grow and evolve with me. And it wasn't happening. And what I recognize is I can't require someone to do that. They have to want to do it for themselves, not for me. And I think there were moments where he was trying to recalibrate who he was to fit me, and I was trying to recalibrate. And of course, there's going to be a degree of compromise and ways that you mold and you fit together. But for us, it just wasn't right. And we kind of always knew. But it was, and also I had a belief that, I'm turning 35, and if I'm not married, then I'm not worthy and there's something wrong with me. So yeah, that was humbling, very humbling to then get on the other side and be like, you can't make decisions from that place, and you can't make decisions based on what it looks like for somebody else or what it looks like in the eyes of like the culture that you live in. So it's been some fierce medicine and really deep transitions because, I not only lost my dad, but then, I also essentially, lost this marriage and this relationship. So it's been pretty big seasons of massive change for me. But, on the other side, as crazy as it sounds, like I'm so grateful because I feel more myself than I've ever felt in my life. And me and my, ex-partner, we have so much love and respect. I mean, in the context of divorces, I have to say this has been extremely seamless and peaceful. We also didn't have children. We only really had one asset that we needed to figure out. But I think there was really an idea of like, hey, this didn't work. And I'm sorry. And I'm sorry that I tried to make you someone you weren't on both sides. And let's move forward. And I'm just so remarkably grateful for that because I know that that is not always the way that it goes with big changes like that. But yeah, it's been a lot of shifts for me. A lot of shifts.
How are you dealing with that? Like, how are you doing? Because that's a stripping away. That's like a complete.
Yeah.
That's like can be very lonely.
Yes. Oh yeah.
Confronting all of the things. Your whole life shifted. You went from having a partner,
Yeah.
and a father to those two very important, like what
Like
we
male,
put importance
masculine.
on.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
Like not being there. So how have
Yeah.
you been dealing with that?
Well, first and foremost, here's what's interesting. Before this happened, I was in a lot of pain. I was in a lot of avoidance. And when it happened and when the truth finally came out, ironically, it happened 4 years to the day that we got engaged. So it was in February. And I remember looking at the date on the TV, the day that we made the decision. And I was like, why does this date seem so familiar? And then I realized, wow, 4 years to the day we had, gotten engaged. So
Wow.
it was intense. But I again, this trust and this deeper knowing inside of me. And I had conversations with God, like laying on the floor, just being like, where are you taking me? Because I'm scared. I don't want to lose the comfort I have in this, but I know I gotta go, but it doesn't mean I'm not fucking terrified.
Yeah.
And I have to say that my hardest moments were before I actually made the change, because making the transition, moving back out here, which is where I wanted to live, having my business, which I'm so grateful for because it's so fulfilling for me, having amazing friendships. I feel free. And it's hard to say that because I know that not everyone has that kind of experience when they lose a relationship like this. But if I'm being really transparent, for me, I was just not myself. And so to release something, and like I said, I didn't even want to release it. If he hadn't said it's time, I would have just been like, I would have kept working on it. So to have that grace, even though it was so fucking scary, it's like, I feel like once I let myself fall, I was free. And I've just been living an experience in the last couple months where I'm just experiencing a lot of peace, but it doesn't mean I don't have immense moments of grief. Our wedding anniversary was a little bit of a tough day for me because I was like, wow, 3 years ago today was such a day of happiness for us and such a day of excitement. And 3 years later, I'm grieving, and I'm also like, look around my apartment. I love my apartment, but I'm just like, wow, I just wasn't anticipating this. But at the same time, I'd say the hardest grief and the thing that I still struggle with quite a lot, even though I have a very strong, relationship with my dad, even though he's no longer here, has been grieving my dad. I think that my dad and I also had a very towards the end, we really got it together, but I feel like we had a bit of a complex relationship only because my my love language is like words of affirmation, and my dad is just he's a Scorpio. He's a bit stoic, very kind of a non-emotional but deeply emotional, sensitive person. And it wasn't until I got older, I feel like he started to connect with me more. And so I always used to think about him dying, and it would like, which is so intense, but I think maybe we all rehearse loss because it's like, how can I brace myself? And I used to wake up in the middle of the night and just be like, what am I going to do?
Mm.
And then to actually experience it and to actually say goodbye to him um, has been like one of the hardest, but one of the most beautiful times of my life, because the week after he died, as insane as this sounds, it was the most magical week of my life on this earth. The ways that he came through to me, the people that I met, the conversations I had, the synchronicities. Like, I was standing in line, and I'm just a very open person because I think that vulnerability, I realized like it helps me get through things. And I was literally in line at this coffee shop in Boise, Idaho, and the woman had a butterfly on her necklace. And the butterfly, I actually got this tattooed for like my dad and his process of just his transition, because I'd see butterflies all the time. And this girl had this butterfly necklace on, and I was like, oh, I love that. And I was like, I actually just lost my dad, and da da da. And this woman looked at me, she smiled at me really warmly, and I was just really appreciated it. And then I was standing there waiting for my food, and she walks up to me. She goes, I don't mean to like startle you or be, forward. She's like, but I lost my dad too. And ironically, she had lost her dad on my dad's birthday.
Wow.
So she said, November 4th. And I was like, oh my God, that's my dad's birthday. And there was just such a little moment, and we gave each other this huge hug. And I just felt like I had so many moments of like exquisite human connection that week, because I think so often we may find that when we open ourselves, no matter what we're experiencing, there is going to be love for us in some way. And like I was talking about with my mediumship stuff and like the big drama of like the hospital and all the different things, I always had the belief that there was nothing beyond this, and or if there was, I didn't know what it was, and that I didn't have support. And if there's one thing of like opening myself, and then, especially my dad's death, it is opened me to understand how unbelievably supported we are, and how remarkably intelligent this universe is, and God is, and all of the things. And, this has been quite a journey for me, because especially, it took a lot for me to accept that my relationship wasn't going to work. And it's also taken a lot for me to accept that like my dad his time on this earth is complete. And those were two like masculine structures that I had in my life, that even though they both had their, kind of issues, they were still sources of support for me in certain ways. So the transition that I'm in right now, although moments of being liberating, it's kind of like when you jump into freezing cold water. It's like really intense, but then there's this freedom of, for anyone who cold plunges, it's something I do very rarely, but it's like just that high you get after doing something unbelievably hard that maybe you don't want to do, but it's good for you. And, although my dad's death is, something that I think I'll grieve like for the rest of my life as a person, I have to say that the grief of like my relationship, I see in the bigger picture why it couldn't continue on with me. And I'm so grateful for the healing space that this person granted me over 6 years, because it truly made me a different human being. It made me a better person and a better woman, because even now, as I'm getting ready to like step into, what I would love to be like a partnership and dating and experiencing and exploring new people, I see the gifts that my relationship with this person gave me, because I was a completely different, very insecure, very anxious person when I met him. And that's also why we moved so fast, because I was so anxious and I just needed the answer, and he was willing to give me the answer. But it's not like we really checked in to be like, where are we going? And like, what are your thoughts about this? And what do you want with this? We just didn't really do any of that. And we were younger, and he was a little bit younger than me. So in context, I look back and I'm like, it's all happened perfectly. But at the same time, it's like there are gifts that I will take with me, even though the relationship itself didn't work and we couldn't make it work.
I mean, so you've been through so much. That is like, that is
wild.
That is a lot. And I love how you share, like, this isn't necessarily what I anticipated or expected, but just like that constant surrender and knowing that you're guided and feeling, I love those moments. I know when Chris's dad passed, like it was, like you said, one of the hardest things ever, but also, wow, on the, like you said, exquisite human connection, like truly just these moments of like, wow, life is so beautiful. And having that contrast made it even more beautiful, meaning like and we feel like we got messages from him afterward that were just so profound, like so profound. But I think of you all the time because I know you've just,
I've been in it.
And I've been your world has been turned upside down, but it's actually so beautiful and gives so many, I think the way that you're handling it and just all that you're doing and all that you're getting out of it, that is just one of the biggest gifts for everyone else to see.
Totally.
Because like you said, I think we rehearse our fears
all the time.
Yes, and actually seeing somebody go through some of their biggest fears and knowing that they're coming out better, I think makes life so much better.
Yeah.
So I'm so grateful for you sharing that.
Yeah. Thank you, babe. And thank you for the support you gave me. Like, I remember being in, Idaho, and my dad had just passed. And I remember you sending me that message. You sent me beautiful flowers, and you telling me, after Chris's dad passed, we just got so many reminders that he's there. And yeah, it's a very sacred time. And I also feel like it's not always something that our culture really creates a lot of space for, but the outpouring of love and the outpouring of support. And I got to be with my mom, and I'm so grateful for my business and the business I've created over so many years, because I got to be with my mom for almost 3 weeks, and I just stayed with her, in her and my dad's home. And I got, especially when, just like speaking of like the grief process, but it's like being in my dad's office, I remember being like, where are you? Like, it's so shocking, but it's just like, he just has found so many ways to just be like, I'm around. And he always tells me, like, in my mind, like, I'm so close. That's always like the thing that he says. So
Wow.
it's very powerful. I went to a show the other night as well, and it was very emotive music, and I just was kind of meditating. It was very dark in there too, so I could just close my eyes. I was also very tired, and I just remember being like, oh my God, I feel my dad. Like, I just feel him. And it's made me a much deeper, mature person to go through this amount of intense change in such a short amount of time. Like, I think it's like deepened me and made me more powerful in a way that I just did not have access to before all of this.
I feel that so deeply. So if there's anything on the other side of like deep grief or
Gifts.
challenges, wow, you get to meet the person you came here to be.
100%.
Yeah. And you're just getting started with that. So I'm so excited for you. All right. So how could we work with you if we want to check out your membership?
Yeah. So, I mean, my website is just nataliabenson.com. You can explore the membership there. And yeah, I'm super active on Instagram. I've got the MWMM linked on there as well, but I'm just at Natalia_Benson.
Amazing. Well, I'm so grateful for you coming on.
Thanks,
and just all that
babe.
you share. Thank you so much, because I know it's going to make other people's journey so much better and easier. I've loved getting to know myself better through you as well, and getting to know you better too. So
grateful.
You guys go and check that out. We are linking everything up in show notes, and you can go and check out her program as well. And thank you guys so much for tuning in. Until next time, earn your happy. Bye, everyone.